Welcome back to Exotic Car Play Place, everyone. Thanks for joining in today. Do you realize with what's going on right now, car demand is up, supply is down. It makes cars a little more expensive than they were maybe even a year ago. With that said, there's so many tricks that I wish I knew back when I used to buy cars. When I spent time in the dealer buying a used car or a new car at a dealer, I've made many purchases through the years, and I know I left money behind. I know I could have got better deals, but I didn't know all the tips. I didn't know all the tricks. And I didn't know some of the things that the dealers do or have in their back pocket. I want to share some of these with you today so that when you go into that BMW dealer next time to negotiate your next car, that you're not going to be taken for a ride. Let's get into it now. The first thing I want to say is don't get sucked into a lease, even if the dealer's trying to sell you on it. Make sure you do homework before you go into it. Understand why you would use a lease versus why you would just buy the car outright. The reason you'd go for a lease is if you wanted to always stay in a new car, always with warranty, and you possibly could utilize it against expenses in a particular business. Outside of that, there's really no reason to have a lease. Not only on top of that, you also want to consider that you do not want to put any money down on a lease because that money is gone. If something happens to the car, God forbid, maybe an accident or whatever, that deposit goes away, poof, up in smoke. So stay away from as much down payment as you can on a lease if you do find yourself leasing. But otherwise, if you just want to keep the car for a long period of time or even a few years, the purchasing is the way to go. Whether it's financing through the bank, find your best rate, or just buy it cash. But do not lease the car unless you have a very specific need. So the second tip to understand is the 4-square tactic. If you've been shopping for your car, you've taken it for a test drive, and now it's time to sit down with the dealer or the salesperson, and out comes the notepad and they start drawing the 4 squares, that means it's time to walk away. No, wait a minute, run away. Why? Because all they're trying to do is provide you with a little smoke and mirrors. It's a little bit of nonsense and noise to dazzle you with some of their nonsense. What they write down is the vehicle price, then they write in the trade-in value on another square, then they write the down payment and the monthly payments. Then they start doing this little juggling match, crossing over, trying to dazzle you with their nonsense. If you start to see this happen, they are trying to be greasy. It's one of the oldest tactics in the book. Just walk away because they're not giving you a fair shake and they're trying to rip you off. The next tip that I have to share with you is your trade-in. Now, it doesn't mean you don't trade in your car. Sometimes you just need to move it along, and it's easier sometimes just to pass it along to the dealer, make the transaction, and you drive out with a new vehicle. That's a great way to do it. But what I can advise you on is don't negotiate a difference, because what ends up happening is you always get ripped off. Your best option is negotiate on the main vehicle, the new vehicle that you're looking at buying. That's the key ingredient. Once you've got that established, then you negotiate on your vehicle. If at that point you're not happy with the price on either vehicle, then you can either walk away, say, hey, I'll try you another day, maybe give it some thought and leave for the time being. If they're desperate enough to sell, they might take you up on it. They might even call you a day later if you leave their phone number. But at the end of the day, if you're not satisfied with either end, unless you're desperate, then you will give money away. So the best thing to do is negotiate both those prices separately. And I would even suggest to go another step further, don't openly admit that you're trading a vehicle in when you first start talking about the cars. That's one of the first questions that these dealers have for you is, are you going to be trading something in? And just say, well, I haven't really thought about it yet. Then you go into the deal, start wheeling and dealing on their vehicle, and then maybe bring it out after the fact. Of course, that holds you stronger. You might get a stronger negotiation on their vehicle, but it also gives you a little more bargaining power when it comes time to talk about your car's value. So another little scam you don't want to get sucked into is what they call the spot delivery. That's a little deal where the dealers can sometimes say, hey, maybe it's late in the day, we'll make the deal, you take the vehicle home, we'll finalize the deal tomorrow or what have you, maybe next week. Now, while this can sometimes be a courtesy to consistent buyers maybe that are familiar with that particular dealer or the dealer's familiar with that customer, sometimes they'll extend you those extra conveniences. But unfortunately, there's still those shady dealers that use that technique to sort of commit you into the vehicle. It might give the dealer a little extra time to squish a little bit extra profit through the loan application or adjust interest rates while you're not watching. It also sort of commits you, so you feel that sense that urgency that you have to take the car now. You're committed and you feel like there's no turning back. And unfortunately, it doesn't give you time to really think it through, especially if you're rushing at the end of a day. That can be a bad time to get caught in the spot delivery. Now here's a greasy deal that I've even been sucked into when I was younger and I was a young buyer, very inexperienced. It's called the old bait and switch trick. What that is the dealer will post a vehicle, maybe a specific spec, looks kind of base, but it looks super low. Looks very aggressively priced to the point where it's like you can't refuse. Wow, I didn't realize those cars were that cheap. So you hustle on down to the dealer, ask the dealer about it. Lo and behold, oh boy, the car's gone. Sorry, we just sold it 2.5 hours ago. Go figure, right? Just my luck. No, it's not your luck. They're scamming you guys. The funny thing you'll find out too is after you ask about that vehicle, they'll usually offer you another vehicle very similar, but this one is actually better spec'd. It has these more desirable features, and of course it costs a little bit more money. The bait and switch suck you in with nonsense and end up kicking you out the door with a much higher priced vehicle. The next little scam that sometimes catches people off guard is the small print smokescreen. And unfortunately, what that ends up doing is sometimes there's small print that you don't bother reading because you're anxious or you're tired or it's late in the day or it's just very difficult to read, and quite frankly, a lot of people couldn't be bothered. But sometimes in there is buried stipulations, caveats, conditions. For example, one big one has to do with around financing rates. Often people assume they go into a certain condition or a certain deal thinking that they're going to be attaining this particular rate. But often small print might state, well, that's only reserved for people with certain credit ratings or better. Unfortunately, what that means is you might end up paying more in the long term. If you're financing through the dealer, you likely will get snookered and wind up paying a little higher rate. And they can pretty much weasel out anything. Any of that fine print can catch you off guard. And if you're not expecting it, you might just lose out. One tip that I found is if you are going to finance through the dealer, one thing that I've asked very specifically, if I happen to have enough cash to pay this vehicle down early, can I do so without a penalty? Because a lot of the old bank loans and things like that, you actually would get penalized for paying off a vehicle too soon. So they wanted you to pay the term out month by month so that they ensured that you had that locked in percentage, that rate of interest that they were able to accumulate. Now a lot of the terms are offering to better buyers and people with better credit ratings that you can pay it off at any time. They know the reality is most people don't pay it off right away because a lot of times people don't have the money, or some people pay cash, which coincidentally is not the best way to buy a car. However, be sure to ask the question if you're financing in-house, if you can pay it off without a penalty at any time. Now there's another little scam, is the dealer added options. Very much like the bait and switch. You go in there with a presumed assumption that there's a low price. You find this, say this base 3 Series BMW for $30,000, and then you go into the dealer and you can't find anything remotely like that. You find another 3 Series BMW in the dealer there for $55,000 and try to figure out why it costs so much more. Well, sometimes they add on these extra dealer added options. Maybe they'll put on a little carbon fiber wing or upgrade the rims to a 20-inch from the factory 18s. And maybe they'll put in some other little additional cold weather options and a ski bag and some other miscellaneous items and start jacking the prices up. They bring you in with the low price expectation and send you out the door paying a whole lot more. Now another little scam by some of these guys is the fact that they can put some of these extra add-on features and blend it into your monthly payments if you're financing, for example. Now don't get suckered into that. I mean, on a standalone, if you walk into the dealer and the dealer said, well, this particular branding package with headrest crests and the leather seats, and you have a few other little odds and sods, maybe a little carbon fiber trim on the inside with some aluminum accents, that might cost you an extra $6,300 new, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, that's too much money. No, I don't want that. Then the dealer might say, well, wait a minute. We can actually add that in there and we'll give you a great deal. Awesome deal. But you know what we'll do? We'll make it so it's only $52 extra a month. And you're thinking to yourself, well, on a $700 a month payment for this car, and I'm only adding $52 extra a month, I can have this so much nicer a car. Sure, let's do that. You're still paying for it. That's the trick. They're still charging you full price, in a lot of cases, jacked up prices for those featured elements and those extra add-ons. Whether it's, again, those upgraded rims or that carbon fiber spoiler, whatever it is, the dealer's still going to take it out of your hide. They're not in the business for losing money. They're not in the business to make friends, and they're not in business for good faith. They're in business to make money. Have you ever walked into the dealer and then found one of the formalities that the dealer hits you with is, How can I help you today, sir? You get past that question. Second question is, what sort of car or vehicle are you looking for? You express that. And then the next question often is either, will you be trading something in, or how will you be paying? Don't get sucked into the how will you be paying question. Number one, never ever admit that you're paying cash. First of all, if you're telling them you're paying cash, you're going to pay too much for the vehicle right off the get-go. Because if you're paying cash, you're signaling them that they can't take money out of you in interest charges. Whether it's through a lease or financing, they know right away if you're paying cash, there's no other way to get the extra cash out of you but charge it out of the vehicle. So they're going to hold harder on the price of the vehicle. Never ever tell them you're paying cash. Let them believe you're doing something more along the lines of financing, possibly in-house. Inquire about what their finance rates are. Inquire about their lease opportunities. But never admit you're paying cash, because you will pay more for the vehicle. Once you get past this question, then you start negotiating on the price of the vehicle if you like what you see. So another little thing that the dealers are going to try to trap you on is extended warranties. Now, I'm normally the kind of person, if I'm saying I'm buying a computer or a new cell phone, I'm not going to take an extended warranty. I find them to be, quite frankly, a bit of a ripoff. And, for the price and the hassle, by the time you had to return something, it's really not worth your time. A vehicle, on the other hand, is the second largest investment in your lifetime for most people. And with that said, if you're buying a Lexus, you may opt out of the extended warranty. If, however, you're buying a BMW or maybe a Jaguar or a Land Rover, it might be worth your time. I would even strongly suggest you look at the extended warranties. And if you happen to be buying a second-hand vehicle through the dealer, the old CPO, certified pre-owned vehicle, might have an option for purchasing an extended warranty. I would certainly take them up on that too, because that often gives you a longer lease on life, especially if you're buying a used vehicle that's 2 or 3 years old. Why not tack on an extra 2 years? But try to negotiate on that extended warranty. They'll come at you too with, say, a $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 warranty for the next 2 years. You always want to try to negotiate that. Also, try to avoid those third-party warranties. There's not a whole lot of them that don't come with a whole lot of tight stipulations. Most of them push back when you have a claim. It's a big hassle, and quite frankly, they try to deny you on every single little element. But if it's a factory original certified pre-owned warranty, I would strongly encourage you buy it if you're buying one of those premium luxury cars. Another little infamous scam for marketers coming out of the dealer networks are see the dealer for details. That's just a big scam to get you into the store. I mean, how many of these, you've seen that clown standing out on the median, waving his banner saying, hey, get your great pizza here, $1.99 for an extra large pizza over here. And then, oh, look, lo and behold, me being Jojo the circus boy gets all excited, and I swerve in there and I go and buy my, well, it's no longer $1.99 because that's basically a piece of flat bread with a bit of splash of sauce on it and nothing else. But if you actually want some stuff on it like pepperoni and other things and cheese, that pizza ends up costing you $12. So you didn't really get a whole lot of deal. And the same thing works with car dealerships. See details. There's often so many hoops and jumps and things that you've got to try to figure out or make work that it's often not worth your time. They might even say free lifetime oil changes, but in the fine print it might say every 30,000 kilometers. So you're only going to get an oil change every 4 or 5 years. What is that worth to you? But you've invested in this car that the dealer sold you on, and maybe it wasn't even the car you really wanted, but you got sucked in because you felt like you were going to get a good deal. So don't get pulled into by those dealer, come on in and see the dealer for details. That's a hoax. Another little trick up some of these dealer sleeves is marking up your interest rate. If you're borrowing from the dealer, or if you're going through their particular finance institution or financial institution, I would suggest before you even get to that point, you should even research some of your own financial institutions. Maybe go to your local bank, find out roughly how much the budget of that car is, what the conditions are, and what the interest rate might be through a couple of your own institutions. So at least you have a bit of a baseline. Then you go in there, you've wheeled on the car, you've dealed on the car, and you get to the point where it's talking about lending. Now they might throw the number and it's time to start discussing those lending rates and the dollars and cents. And what they sometimes do, because they have arrangements with these third-party lenders, often what ends up happening is they say that we'll give you this interest rate of 6%. But the lender that they use is only charging 4%, and the dealer pads that extra 2% and takes it and puts it in their own pocket. You don't even know the difference. The lender's okay with it, the dealer's great with it, and that's just another way for the dealer to make it a little extra cash on the arrangement. So if you know from your own lenders, if their rates are still competitive, go for it. If you feel that you're getting ripped off, then that's a great point to walk away and maybe check with your own bank for your own lending rate. Now, another trick that these dealers sometimes have up their sleeve regarding money is called the money factor. Often hidden, a lot of buyers don't even know it exists, and usually exists more around an APR calculation when you're talking about a lease or you're buying the car through a lease. These are hidden factors that are all dialed in there. A lot of people don't even know what it is, what to look for, how to look for it, and how to figure out if it's being competitive or not. Here's a little rule of thumb. Ask the dealer what your money factor is. Straight up, they should be honest. If they're hiding it, then they're shysters, leave. If they're willing to share with you that number, take that number, multiply it by 2,400, and that should give you your rate of lending. If you find it's still competitive, then you're good to go. If you find they've padded it up, well, then you've got room to negotiate with the dealer. Have you heard of another trick? Now, I really hope you've never been scammed or screwed over by this one, and it's called the yo-yo scam. If you've ever experienced this, be sure to contact the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and report it, because it's not just a scam, it's not just greasy, it's actually illegal. So if you ever feel like you're victimized by this, be sure to contact the FTC. What it essentially is you find a car, you drive it, you enjoy it, it's exciting, you sign the paperwork at a reasonable rate or what you consider an in-house finance rate that is acceptable to you or your wife or what have you. You drive the car home, maybe a day later, maybe a week later, the dealer calls you back and coincidentally says all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute, you know what? We had an issue. There was a glitch here. We need you to come back. We have to readjust the finance rate that wasn't accurate based on your interest, based on your credit rating or whatever excuse or scam that they're going to throw your way. So you come back in, take the vehicle in, you have to re-sign, and of course now you're signing at a higher interest rate. That's known as the yo-yo scam. Bring you back and forth and hoop you. If that ever happens to you, you know you've been screwed, you know you've been victimized, and make sure you report it. Another offering from the dealers is what they call GAP, G-A-P, or Guaranteed Asset Protection in long. And all that is essentially a type of insurance. So say something happens to the vehicle, maybe it has a collision, or it's devalued in some drastic way, maybe it's buried in water. Whatever that looks like, a lot of insurance companies don't necessarily by default cover the difference in depreciation from the value of the car now, the depreciated value to the price new and what you owe if you're underwater technically on your loan. There's a differential now because of depreciation. Well, don't go through the dealer in most cases. Generally, go through your own insurance company. A lot of them have a lot of these different scenarios that you can engage in. A lot of them have accident forgiveness. You know, for example, if you have 1 or 2 accident claims, they'll forgive you and it won't go on your record. This gap insurance is another opportunity to engage in your insurance company that you can possibly cover the difference in the case of a loss. Another thing that they're going to try to hose you on, especially as you're closing the deal, you'll often find this on the back door on your way out. Once you're signing the paperwork, they're going to try to sell you on sealants and rust proofing and Scotch Guard and fabric protection and paint protection and all of those extra little add-ons. And I would strongly suggest you avoid most of it. They're always going to try to sell you on it. And it's not that any of those products are really that bad. I mean, the more the merrier. It's just that they're going to charge you more for it. Paint protection, I mean, it's not much more than a glorified wax. It's not much more than a glorified wax. And you know how long wax lasts. You got to recoat every couple of years anyhow. Rust proofing, you only get to certain areas anyway, so it's not like it does a thorough job of rust proofing your vehicle. And as far as fabric protection goes, most of the fabrics today are designed for long wear, as is paint is designed for long wear. The only thing I would advise on getting would be like a 3M or an Expel rock film protection. But don't do it at the dealer because they'll charge you 3 to 4 times more than if you go down the road to some other little independent shop where you get these great little guys, they install it, they're excellent, and most of the time, these dealers just get it done at these little third-party shops and tack on their 200% profits on it anyhow. So take your vehicle, make an appointment at that shop down the road, drive it down there after you take possession, and get it done on day one so you don't get any new stones or rock damage on your new car. So I really hope that helps any one of you guys. If it helps even one of you guys, then I've done my job and I've given you some guidance and some heads up. And I really hope you take some value from this. I know some of these are commonly known practices, but some of them are hidden. And I know some of you guys will learn some of this. And again, if you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And I really hope to see you guys in the next video. Catch you real soon. Bye-bye.